While the target top is on the 3D printer, I've started working on the front end. My goal is to make a clamshell. Somebody else on the forum has done it, but they did it with the new front end, not with the old front end. So looks like it's going to be a lot more work on the old front end, but I've gotten started on it. I got the fenders on, and they're aligned to the side pods, and then I got the nose up and they're aligned to the nose. And so I've ground all the gel coat back here. I'm fixing to lay some fiberglass right here on both sides, and that'll be the first step in bonding the fenders to the nose. Once that gets bonded, I'll take it all off the car, flip it over, and put a lot of fiberglass on the inside to really strengthen it up. And then once that's good and set, then I'll be able to start figuring out what I'm going to do around the headlight openings, which I'm changing the headlights. That was the very first video, was changing the headlights, the headlight openings in the hood, get all that lined up and bonded together. And then I'll actually start fitting the headlights after I've got the clamshell bonded together. So, boy, what a mess. I mean, just fiberglass dust everywhere, grinding that gel coat off. I think these fenders had more gel coat than the entire quarter panels did. So a lot of gel coat on these two pieces here. So fixing to get some glass on them and start letting them kick, and then tomorrow I'll be able to glass the backside. Preparing to bond the hood to the fenders and the nose. And you can just see what kind of mess cleaning off this gel coat makes. It's unbelievable. So got to get it air hosed off and get all the powder off, and then get it around front and get it set up and start putting some glass on it. Started bonding the hood to the fenders. As I showed earlier, I was kind of grinding back all the gel coat along the edge. I've got the hood bolted to the fenders at all four corners. Those bolts will come out after all the fiberglass cures. So 1 inch strip, 2 inch strip, 3 inch strip, 3 layers right there. Then I'll be able to take it out, flip it over, and do the back side. I'm going to try and get a little bit here to try and help set the nose to the hood. Can't do it on the other side because I'd already cut that piece out working on the new headlight. So to figure out what I'll do on this side, I'll probably make up a panel on the inside to hold it in place. So the hood is good and bonded to the fenders and the nose now. It's actually surprisingly stiff. As you can see, I don't have it sitting on the chassis right now. I've got it up on some sawhorses in the wheels because I've been working on trying to get the Honda Accord lights to fit. And so I finally have the corner here and the top. Well, the top I haven't touched, but I finally had it where things were fitting nice along the top, and so I was going to come back and build the bottom back. But when I get ready to start building the bottom back and making some templates, I realized that these lights are so tall, especially how far they hang out below. Like this ridge here is what's exposed and you get to see, but it sticks almost down 4 inches from the light onto the bottom. The housing does, and you know, I really plan to open this entire area up and expose it for airflow and really for cosmetics. And so if those lights are hanging down 4 inches, I'd have to open it to here instead of here. And I did some mock-ups in Gravity Sketch and SketchUp, and that doesn't look good at all. It creates a very funny look with the light being too tall and the upper portion being too small and too tall, and the lower portion being too short. So I'm going to ditch the Accord lights. Actually kind of thought that was coming for a long time. I've done several SketchUp and Gravity Sketch renditions of other lights. This time I'm going to do something that's been done before, although I'm really big on doing everything unique and custom. Another builder on the 818 used Yamaha R1, which is a motorcycle lights. And they actually look really good, and I know they can be made to fit. He did it with the Gen 2 nose, which has a very different fender profile The Gen 2 nose doesn't have this ridge right here. It's more just smooth, and then it has a sharper ridge on the inside. So it will look different, but I do know the lights can be made to fit. So those are the lights I've ordered, and I'll be working on that. The rest of the nose is obviously together. I obviously haven't came back and sanded or put any filler in or anything like that yet. I've been working on getting everything roughed in before I start that. My goal is to get the lights roughed in and closed in, and then that will, as part of that, I'll be making a light bucket to encase it, and that will really strengthen up this area here between the nose, the hood, and the fender, because that's a pretty weak area on this one. It's not bonded at all yet. And on this side, it's only got 3 inches of bonding. So once I get the lights in and the housing built and strengthen that up, then I'll be able to start working on the bottom end, doing what I want to do down here. So it's kind of where it's going to stop for this week, and I doubt there will be a video update next week. So well, that's where the updates on the nose are going to stop. We're going to go inside and talk about 3D printing, but this is kind of where we ended up on the nose for a couple of weeks, waiting on new lights, and I've got some obligations next weekend, so I doubt I'll be able to work on the car any. Alright, so let's talk about 3D printing, which is going on right there. And this thing runs almost 24/7 these days. So I have pretty much the entire cell panel printed out here in pieces, and they were just coming off the printer, and I was throwing them in a stack. And then I sat down to kind of lay them out, and I realized that they don't fit together. This here should be a perfect cross the way I cut this piece up in Fusion. And as you can see, this piece is over 1 inch short. This piece is over 1 inch short. These two pieces, if I line them up there, fit nicely, but if I line up the bottom edge, they don't fit this way. This piece lines up pretty nicely there, although that's just a tiny bit short. And then if I measure this piece, it's too small. And so I thought I had an issue with scaling between Fusion 360, which was in inches, and my slicer, which was in millimeters. And so I actually started reprinting things. I converted my Fusion document into millimeters since I'm done designing it. It was hard to design it in millimeters because my tape measures all read in inches. Re-exported them, started printing them again, and then it dawned on me before I'd even finished the first reprint that wasn't the issue. The issue, because I thought they were just too short, but looking at it again, I realized I have issues this way as well. And so what I found out after measuring it is the issue is the Z calibration on my printer. Anything, so this piece built, this was actually the bottom, built this way. And so this was the bottom and this was the top as it printed. It's too short in this direction. This piece, you can see the ribs run this way, so it printed this direction. It was standing like this. It's too short in the Z direction. Same thing was this one. It was up on its edge. This was the Z direction. It's too narrow in this case because it was too short when it printed upright. So I had to go back and monkey with my printer to figure out why I was coming up short on everything in the Z direction, which is fixed now, because as you can see, I printed this one also in the Z direction, and it's still got the supports on it. I haven't removed them yet, but it's 1 inch longer. So we'll talk a little bit about that just in case it's a help to anybody. I created a exact 50 millimeter cylinder in Fusion 360 to print with and do some testing. And so this was the first one I printed, and it came out at 47.8 millimeters. So 2.2 millimeters short over 50 millimeters. That's 4.4% short. And as you can see, I've got a lot of banding, width variability, some squished layers, some slipped layers. So this was a really ugly piece. So I checked and checked and checked the calibration on my stepper motors, and if I wasn't printing an object, if I just had the 3D printer offline and I sent it a command to move 100 millimeters, it moved exactly 100 millimeters. So I was really perplexed. And after a lot of troubleshooting, what I finally found out was that I had done some work. That's the control board in the back corner there. I had done some work on that board. Had to replace some cooling blocks and things like that. And I'd never put the cover back on, and I didn't think a lot about it, but the cover has a case fan. And so apparently without that fan, which isn't all that big, blowing on the heat sinks, the stepper motors were overheating, and it was causing erratic movement in the Z direction. And why it didn't cause erratic movement in the X and Y direction, I'm not sure. My only guess is it's because I have one stepper driver driving 2 Z motors, and on the X you have one stepper motor driving one X motor. That's the only thing I can think. But after I put the case fan back on, so that the cooling fan was there, voila, I get a piece that is exactly 49.98 millimeters and much smoother, very consistent layer heights, no slipping, no banding. The little pits in it there are actually where I need to work on ooze and retraction, because in the middle of all the troubleshooting, the other thing I did was swapped the nozzles on my 3D printer from 0.4 millimeters to 0.8 millimeters. So that is a 0.6 millimeter layer height. It's a pretty thick layer. If you look at these parts I printed with the old nozzles, they're 0.3 millimeter layers. So I can't even get the camera to focus in and see the layers on that. They're so small. So these layers are twice as thick. It's also those extruded at 0.6 millimeters in width, and this is extruding at a half. That was 0.5 millimeters in width. This is 1.0 millimeters in width. So I'm extruding twice as thick of a line and twice as tall of a line now, which means my print times are cut significantly now. I can't have the print heads moving as fast as they were because I don't have enough heat to melt the plastic fast enough to extrude 2 times as much filament and still move back and forth at the same speed. But it still cut my print times in half, literally in half. So this having to reprint everything, it's going to take half the time it took the first time because I've got the larger nozzles on it. So that's kind of where we are. I'm hoping to get the full set reprinted by the end of the weekend so that I can maybe glue it together and put it on the car, the driver's side, and make sure that it looks okay, so that during the week I can be printing the passenger side, because I don't really want to print the passenger side until I know that it's going to fit, until I put the driver's side on, because if it doesn't fit, I will have wasted a lot of time and a lot of filament on parts I'm just going to have to reprint. So that's going to wrap this video for this week, guys. I appreciate you watching, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks to find out how all this 3D printing turned out.